in many ways, in many respects, as the chairperson, the city's representative of the Airport Commission. I think this is somewhat deja vu. We found a news article of 3 years ago of June or July when the city actually had a committee of the whole in this room talking about some of the things we're going to maybe talk about tonight, but more or less sort of getting the city's position on the airport and some of the issues that were experienced at the time. So I had sent all of you a memo yesterday, actually, when I think it was distributed, as kind of just giving you some background and some history of why the request for the discussion. And I did put together just some contextual pieces, I think, for us to maybe go through. So I'm going to attempt to pull those up because I think it kind of refreshes those. Bill, you may want to slide over to another chair. And see if I can get this pull up. Sometimes they take a bit to get So we all know where Alexander Field is. Loosely, the purpose of the airport, as has been discussed more recently by the Airport Commission, as we will go through this process in terms of our mission or our purpose, is to support the economic growth of the region. And I think within that sort of context or idea are a lot of touch points as how the airport can support that. Obviously, as being the nearly a mile of runway in terms of its primary surface of attracting in a certain type of aircraft and supporting that, but then also to be prudent fiscal stewards of the contributions our municipalities make. And I think we have to remind ourselves, how that place is run. It's an asset, no different, I think, than our streets or our wastewater infrastructure or sewer or any of that kind of stuff. It's an asset that it needs to be maintained, but it also needs to undergo regular maintenance activities and those sorts of things to sustain sort of its role in economic growth in the region. As a reminder on the financial contribution side of things, the history goes way back in terms of the multiple ownership of the airport. The city doesn't actually have really any land jurisdiction of the airport with the exception of the new hangar space and some of the other parcels sort of right around there surrounding it. But we do contribute about $70,000 based on equalized value, about 60%, just shy of 60%. This is last year's numbers of the entire budget of Alexander Field. Rough numbers, it's about $135,000, I think, expenditure up to this point. It's one of the very few budgets, and I've actually heard from, like the village reporters, for example, is a bit surprised that this is one of the very few budgets that hasn't had an increase in the last number of years. The cost of doing business has changed for a lot of the things that government and business does. Some previous administrative context for all of you, just to kind of make you understood or aware of kind of how things work. The airport has historically had an FBO, a fixed base operator, a contractor in effect, that was paid a flat fee or a flat payment for service. They were the people that were expected to staff the terminal building to be available on site for any operations that happened on site on the field. Any requests that may have come to the airport for service, minor snow plowing, some of the general maintenance that has happened on site. We've had, up until 2013, a administrator. He was a very limited time, I won't say limited term, but very small role in terms of a contractor that the administrator provided. He supported the commission, but worked for the commission, but was also supported by a city parks administrative assistant that prepared the minutes and agendas and actually a lot of the filing, which has now moved up in boxes to just outside my door in my office when she retired. And then after the retirement of Debbie, the duties were absorbed both in my role, I think, as mayor of the city, but also as chairperson, and much to the executive coordinator position in terms of preparing minutes, agendas, coordinating correspondence that previously would have been done by the administrative assistant for the administrator who would have handled it. So thinking about the Bureau of Aeronautics, which is a part of the state DOT, which administers and has the oversight of all the airports in the state. All of those duties were then absorbed into both Nick and I. And then we also have service providers. We've got a runway contractor, or a contractor that does runway snow clearing, and then up until when the airport took delivery of their tractor, that snow removal equipment, the county actually did the mowing, but now we've assumed the mowing responsibility that actually has been performed by the FBO contractor. Any questions on the previous administrative model up until this point? A little bit of history. The FBO contract was a 5-year contract. The most recent contract, it just expired in March of this year. The commission did a 6-month extension, which will bring us to September 1st. We're very close to the evaporation of that extension, in which is obviously kind of the impetus for this whole conversation and the timing of it. As far as the proposed administrative model, the commission, since the expiration or close, actually through that extension, the commission decided to talk about what other administrative models could occur out there. And so under the proposed, obviously the evaporation of that contractor relationship, that FBO contractor would disappear. But then there's been discussion about this administrator-attended model. And I would say that the administrator-attended model amongst airports our size, we're a medium classification, general aviation airport, there's about 40 of us in the state that are in this classification, 40 airports. Just over half use this administrator-attended model that we're talking about here. So it's not something that's foreign to most airports, but it's a good mixture of airports in Wisconsin. I think a lot of it depends upon how many operations, what's the activity level like at the airport. So the idea would be to roll in all of the administrative responsibilities that I, as the chairperson, have performed, as well as the support duties that Nick has supported in that process, or the executive coordinator position, into an administrator-attended model, as well as any management, on-site management that currently is performed by the FBO. So this person obviously would perform these duties, like overseeing the airport attendance. We're proposing that we would hire potentially one attendant under this model to be able to staff the airport adequately, so we'd be looking at about 60 hours a week. Some of the minutiae in terms of ordinances, resolutions, I can admit that there has been a ton of lifting involved in this thing for the last 2.5, 3 years, because there's been a lot of necessary projects that we haven't been able to, the commission hasn't really necessarily been able to push off on anyone else, and that's things like clearing the tree obstructions, the approaches. I mean, open houses here and meeting with a lot of property owners. Can't tell you how many hours just went into that project, and it's not done. We're only halfway through it. We're just beginning phase 2 of that. The Bureau of Aeronautics, we have to update our airport layout plan every 20 years, and that came due just in the last couple of years. So we've been working with our consultant on updating that airport layout plan, and part of that actually was requiring, the FAA required us to clear the approaches to make sure that we operate a safe airport. And then there's been a lot of engineering services actually that the city has assumed, staking lots and providing that service really pro bono to the commission over this period of time. The proposed administrative model would also absorb anything like the 6-year plan. And in this model, we're proposing, since it's infrastructure like nothing else, no different than a lot of our other infrastructure, we have to submit a 6-year plan to the Bureau every year. So logically, that person could work with our Director of Public Works on putting that plan together at the discretion and direction of the commission, obviously, so we wouldn't be eliminating that relationship. Meeting with the county board is something that we've often said that somebody from the commission or our representative should do, and then obviously working at the direction of the airport commission. Any questions on this before I move into the next slide is on what's the airport commission going to do if they have this new model? Anybody have any questions? Okay. And then what would the commission retain in terms of responsibilities? They would, we've actually had a fair amount of activity in reviewing and approving leases. There's a lot of long-term leases that are coming due, so there's a bit of action that the commission will still have to act upon, but yet still rely on an administrator to review. Any new hangar construction, any contracts that we would have to approve as a commission, we would still perform that. A new duty would be reviewing and setting airport fuel prices. Something that was not mentioned actually under the FBO model is presently any profit or any revenue that's generated on site above and beyond what we pay our commissioner or pay our FBO contractor to do is actually retained by that FBO. So there would be a new responsibility in the commission in setting and reviewing those fuel prices, or at least the process or the policy in which we set our prices out there. And then bills and the annual budget like we do today. So that's kind of the background on the airport in a nutshell. And I guess tonight what I'm looking to discuss is what the Airport Commission just recently decided, and that was to consider an administrator attendant model of operation out at the airport. It's logical based on the fact that the city performs all of the back-end financial duties for the airport today, and as many other airports are operated that have the administrator attendant model. Typically, the largest municipality is tasked or has a contract or has some relationship to perform that duty. Without sort of having every municipality sitting here saying this, but my gut is that I don't think there's a municipality around us that's an owner that would be interested in doing this or has the capacity internally to do it. So it makes sense for the city to discuss this and entertain this as an option. Obviously, we're the single largest contributor out at the airport, given 60% of what happens financially out there is on our shoulders, and it should be something we care a lot about in terms of what happens and what revenue opportunity there is to operate that thing even more sustainably. It is heavily subsidized by municipalities. That's not exactly common by every airport around the state. Many airports, Eagle River, for example, has a very high revenue component to their budget that's generated on site. I think it's 85% of what it takes to run their airport. They have a lot larger budget even, is actually generated by fuel sales and hangar sales and the like. Our airport is heavily the opposite. It's heavily subsidized by the property taxpayers, and that's not a bad thing. It's just there's opportunity, I think, to be more sustainable in our operations without expecting every municipality to always kick in additional revenues or additional dollars to the budget to make that thing go. And then there's also the sort of surrounding pieces to all of this, and that is great interest by the town of Rome to participate in the commission. We haven't formally discussed it as a commission yet, but there is interest by the town of Rome. Obviously, their development and their Sand Valley project is very much heavily reliant on the airport. I would say a good number of our operations, I just talked with Howard, he was going to be here, but there's a jet coming into town. I mean, they're coming in daily, if not weekly, for Sand Valley. And so having a top-notch experience for those when they arrive here and not having to put that on a contractor seems to be the best interest not only of the city of Rapids, as we put on the best face possible, but all the municipalities for that matter. So Rome is very interested. They do predict that 30% of their player activity will be jet traffic, so they'll be using our airport, which is very substantial. So in terms of things that are on the horizon, there's great opportunity to generate further revenues out there and plow it right back into the reconstruction of any of the runways or any other projects that are on the horizon. So that's what I have prepared in terms of a presentation. I've got one other document that I can bring up at some point, and that's the big question is, what are we talking if we're going to bring an administrator on board and an attendant? What's that look like in real numbers? So Beth and Tim and obviously Sue, through the contractual piece, we've had a number of conversations about if in fact the city were to think about this, how would we evaluate the job? What duties would they do? Obviously, I went through a number of the duties here, and then ultimately, what's a market, general market wage for those folks? It's not a white collar job. It's very much somebody that is a working foreman kind of thing, person on the field, jet
What are the other revenues you're talking about? I mean, besides jacking the price on fuel and,
We're lowering the price on fuel because we've been the most expensive
what are you
airport
planning?
or in.
What else could you make revenue on?
Sure, let me go just pull up those numbers when I get back. Let's just go through this here. Yeah, okay, so here, that's kind of forward-looking, but there's really 3 revenue categories at the airport, one of which is hangar rentals. Today, we generate about $15,000 in renting T-hangars. The commission owns 17, it was, lucky number 13 is missing, but 17, I think, T-hangars out there, plus we have that large, it says Trice, the old Alexander Field hangar, the old, the nostalgic hangar, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Does each hangar have an actual aircraft in it, or are they
Yes,
still
there's-
storing RVs and
Well,
everything else there?
we've chipped away at that, but the private, the commission-owned hangars are airplanes only. But the ones that are private, that are good on their lot leases and everything else are compliant. And it's a work in progress. As long as they're paying on their hangar and it's their private hangar and they're compliant with at least having an airplane in it, they're compliant. But presently, we give 25% of our hangar revenue to the FBO. I mean, without saying it, but the FBO arrangement that we have today is a really great deal. And it's pretty obvious why some people don't want us to deviate from this, because it's really a sweet deal. If somebody is successful in competing for the contract, it's really a good deal. So 25% of that, so you capture about 4,700 based on our current projections there. Fuel sales, obviously, we retain all of the profit for fuel. Today, we get a small flowage fee, which is only about $6,600 a year. We, at bare minimum, conservatively, generate $26,000 of fuel sales. The other piece to this is that other large hangar, which I just got a number on, was about $3,000 a year is what we can peg for that large hangar that the FBO currently retains 100% of the revenue from that. So conservatively, we're thinking we can pick up another $24,000 or $25,000 in revenues. And that's actually being a little more competitive with our fuel pricing. Today, actually back in March, we were $1 more a gallon than the airports around us. I know that sounds like a lot, and obviously avgas and jet fuel are a little bit different markups and things, but there really isn't. The commission does not have a lot of control over that situation today, so we're at the mercy and the whim of an FBO or private contractor deciding what is in their best interest. Does that answer your question on revenues? There is the one new development, the hangar development, that will obviously isn't factored in here in terms of fuel sales, and others, for that matter, that have expressed interest in bringing their aircraft to the field. And while they're not obligated to buy fuel, our hope is that they would buy. In having more competitive fuel pricing, they should have no reason to buy fuel anywhere else. And that's actually the other component to this on fuel pricing is because our prices have been high, they've been leaving with enough fuel to get out, and then coming back with just enough fuel to get back and get back out again. So they're not having to buy fuel on site. So our fuel sales have, in probably a 5, maybe a 15-year trend, have just gone, just flatlined, and they're a little bit up this year from year over year. Actually, it's a little bit higher than the last couple of years, and we got average on fuel. Answer your question. Fuel.
How do the people that are renting the hangars feel about this proposal?
So, good question. So we had an ad hoc meeting here, which served as kind of a public hearing on the potential model change. It was well attended. Just as many people that are currently in the room were at that meeting. We're not proposing anything that would impact them. They would send their rent checks to a different place, or the FBO operator or the manager or administrator would handle them just like they are today. So there really isn't any impact to those that base their aircraft there in this model. There's no cost increases to them. In fact, it might actually come out better if we manage the fuel prices a little bit differently than the private contractors have to manage them.
Mayor, with the town of Rome's possible participation, then we could look forward to some monetary support from them also.
Yeah, as well as the Village of Buren. They've been an entity we've wanted to recruit back to that table many times and haven't been able to get them back to the table. But yeah, any one of them would share in a proportionate share of their equalized value in the overall budget. The scary thing about this today is you see an airport improvements item up there above the airport revenues, 2 lines above, it's $7,500 a year we set aside. And while much of our improvements out there, runway reconstructions to getting the snow removal equipment, all of that has come at a very low local cost match because it's federal grants, which comes with assurances, is that we've been getting our money at about 95% federal and state match. It's dropping back a little bit, but the reality is $7,500 on a couple $1 million runway reconstruction, which is programmed for 2017, I believe, we're gonna have to go back to the well. So the idea would be, potentially, if we bring other municipalities into the fold, that we wanna be able to cushion ourselves, that we're putting that money aside, so we're not having to come back to the city or any other municipality and say, hey, we got a big project, we need you to cough up now. You can't expect anyone to do that, for that matter. So if there's anybody that gets brought to the fold, our hope is that they would contribute to the overall budget, not necessarily reduce any proportionate share or pro rata share. That's an idea anyway, but yeah, without having to bring down that a little bit.
How does Howard feel about all this?
His contract has expired, and it's been extended once. Howard operates a private business just like anybody else that would want to operate something out of there. I think Howard served the airport well for 5 years, but he's met the terms of his contract, I would say. I would say, though, too, that there have been opportunities to provide a better level of service, maybe not specific to Howard, but any contractor, and this model seeks to alleviate that the performance of that person at that point of service is operating just like the commission would expect them to, no different. Whereas if you've got a private contractor, it's up to them. Do they go out and greet them? Do they go out them, whatever that experience is like, it's up to that contractor. Then the commission divests all authority in that person. And we would issue an RFP or a request for FBO proposals just like we did 5 years ago, and Howard could be the next guy or could not be the next guy for that matter. Anybody could submit for it. In fact, we had, I think, at least 2 that had expressed interest if we went along with that FBO proposal. So the commission would still be at that position. So I'm not sure what real question you have and how does Howard feel about this, but that's the frank nature of this. It's not about Howard, it's much bigger than Howard. It's about the operation of the airport. Yeah.
But I think
Howard could be
you ask around, a lot of people said he did a good job over the years.
Yeah, I don't think he had any.
I'm going
Sure.
by other people that have stake in the
Yeah,
airport.
yeah. I think Howard served the airport very well. I didn't have any, direct concerns. If we did, I think the commission would have called his contract or something. But no, there was. He fulfilled the need of his contract. He's very handy. He performs a lot of sort of maintenance activities out there that we don't have to pay for, and so that's an added benefit. But it also doesn't, the FBO, continuing on the path of that FBO contract, and that's a point that I should make, and I will make it now, is that if we do continue down that path of FBO, that FBO model, there will need to be an increase in the budget to pay for any administrative services that are currently being performed by someone. It doesn't have to be the city, it could be an administrator at the airport. Commission decides to hire themselves, or any variety of things. So I think that's not realized in this. There has been this hidden cost that has never been realized by the commission, and they're fully aware of that fact, that something has to be done, or some decision's going to have to be made to that effect.
So some of the administrative duties that you and Nick have been taking on the last, year and a half or so, that would be assumed by this future administrator.
Right.
All of that?
I would still perform the role of the chairperson or commissioner, whatever we want to call it, or at least the city's responsibility would still be there on that. But yeah, any sort of meetings in Madison with the Bureau of Aeronautics on any of the stuff we talked about up there as far as duties, all of those things would be assumed by the administrator.
You said you had conversations with Rome
Mhm.
and their involvement. What type of conversation and to what extent have they developed?
They're ready to go. They're ready to join the commission.
Okay.
We haven't put any terms to that, though, in terms of contribution, or is there any recognition for the fact that all these cities and the 2 cities in the town and the village have contributed to make it what it is today? None of that has been discussed, because it's almost like you don't want to let anybody to join the party after everyone else has paid the tab for all these years. I don't know what that
Because
looks
that'll
like.
be a variable.
Yeah, right. That could be a variable as far as the contribution goes, yep.
Could I ask the question? What
I
is the
don't
total?
think I can answer a question because of a violation of open meeting law. There's 4 commissioners, and if I speak, I
Okay.
can't. I really can't, because there's 2 of us here, and that's a quorum.
So you're here for...
I'm only here for informational gathering.
Okay.
And,
Sue, do you have any, we
Only
have,
4 of you?
yeah.
yes,
Well, yeah, half the membership is presumed to be a meeting, and I guess it should have been noticed as an airport meeting if we would have been thinking that the commissioners were going to attend, but whether you're here for information gathering or not, it's still a meeting that you're attending.
I was going
So
to
if
use
you're
a false name, but you know.
You're having this.
Yeah.
Don't want to miss.
Right.
But you're not taking any action as a commission, so.
Mhm.
You had a question?
Just wanted the Grand Rapids point of view, but that's probably a little hard to get right now, so.
And I think, the purpose of the commission is obviously, we're tonight acting in response to the commission's decision to pursue a contract with the city and to pursue the administrative services model, or administrator-attended model. So we're going to have an airport, and that's probably a good point, we're having an airport meeting next week to react to the decision tonight, and then carry forth, whatever further discussion. If the model doesn't affect the overall budget, there won't be a need for any other municipalities to discuss kind of in their own, about the model and all of that.
Will the administrator have a 3-year contract?
It's a good question. It's a parameter we want to talk about. I guess, if there's concerns that folks have, but yes, one of the ideas would be that the city would enter into a term of an engagement with the
Period of
commission.
time.
Yeah, right. 3 years, 5
So
years,
if
2
you're
years.
not happy or whatever,
Yeah.
go back to a different model.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Back up a minute, you said decision tonight, there's no decision tonight, this is.
No,
just
consensus. I
discussion.
said consensus tonight, yeah. The consensus of the discussion. So if the group feels that they want to pursue this model, the idea would be then the council, or the airport commission then would react to a proposal from the city for administrative services. And then from there, the commission would decide what they want to do with that, and then it would come back to the commissioner, to the council for final ratification or approval at that point.
Who would be the administrator?
We, as a commission and as the administrative service provider, the city, would select that person. Hire just like we would hire for any other position. So we've gotten a job description drafted based on what needs to be performed, and that's been evaluated via the normal channels that we evaluate.
That person would work for the city?
Person would be employed by the city.
City.
Yep. As opposed to the airport commission directly hiring this person, because then there's the support services surrounding that, benefits and all of that. I mean, today we already insure the airport through the city's insurance policy, with the exception of some of the fuel stuff that the FBO currently retains. The city provides all of the backbone support for finance and budget preparation and everything associated with that. The city provides engineering services for lot staking or some of the work that we haven't used our airport contractor for. The city does not perform legal services because of, obviously, multiple owners and all of that. We're in the process of calling out and selecting legal services for the commission. We used to have Skip Wayful, who's now retired, and we haven't had the need to engage anyone. So in terms of how does this all fit together? What, does it fit together? Does it not fit together? Up until this point, it's been discussed that the city should very much consider this if afforded the opportunity, and now the opportunity has been presented.
Stevens Point, what plan do they use?
One owner, so it's a little bit different. We've got the 4 owners here, but they use the administrator-attendant model.
Is the administrator a city employee in
He
Stevens
is,
Point?
yep.
Wapaka?
Wapaka has an airport. We had Dick Jorgensen is from Watoma, right? Not Wapaka. Just want to get my airport.
Tell me
straight.
yes.
He's a town of Grand Rapids resident, so I figured you as the Grand Rapids rep could answer that. Wapaka, I don't know what their operations are like. They're a small airport, and they only have their boundary, I think, is largely their user there. Yeah. Marshfield has an FBO. Eagle River has this model, the model we're talking about. Burnett County has this model we're talking about.
Rhinelander?
Rhinelander, I don't know. I'd have to look at the list of all the airports, yeah.
If the FBO was already on an extension on his contract, why didn't we get moving, or why didn't the commission get moving on this sooner instead of cramming this now to the?
It's not crammed. We can extend with anybody. In fact, we were talking about providing an interim services agreement with anybody. That's why we're having our meeting next week. We've been meeting. We've had twice a month meetings on this since the expiration last spring.
Now with this meeting with the joint commission and the aldermen on board, now if we want extra information, now we have to call, he can't answer any questions in this room. Now we gotta call different commissioners on the side and get information and,
The commission is asking the city to provide the service. So there shouldn't be the need for conversations with individual commissioners or hearing the scuttle or any of that. The point is, the commission has agreed to bring this forth as a proposed model. They're asking the city to provide a contract, and the city then, if in fact the council and folks agree, that the commission then would react to that and affirm or say, negotiate and say, no, we don't like that, we want this instead. That's the back and forth between the commission. I mean, that's the nature of the beast when you've got your city representative, who's also the chief elected official, and on the commission, right? I mean, that's the nature of it. So I don't know why there would be the need for any calling around, and, we're being asked to provide a service, and we're having this meeting to talk about providing that service.
Yeah, so I understand. So we're asking now because kind of the contract's up, but we're also anticipating that Rome would be interesting, because I guess it's to their advantage if they're gonna have all these jets flying into their golf course.
Right.
So what is the anticipated revenue stream there? I mean, you're looking for us to approve something that, what's in it for the city, I guess?
You're not approving anything tonight.
No, but we're looking to go forward.
Right, and I think it has to go back to the airport now is the one that, the commission is the one that's gonna figure out exactly how,
But I think that's what we're asking,
to be, right.
I mean, I
The
think
details
that's
are
what
to be
Chad's
worked out. This is more of a general concept and whether we should keep not wasting our time, using our time wisely to do a contract, the job description, that type of thing, so, but, this was, I think it's more of a general, general concept, and the details have yet to be worked out, and you can certainly say no.
I'm assuming you're not gonna draw up a contract for any more than the guy's getting now. So I don't know what the, I don't.
Well, I mean, right now, it's an independent contract that's just getting a flat amount. He's not getting
Right.
any benefits.
I understand.
And then
that,
this
yeah.
would be a city employee with benefits and,
The idea would be that this model wouldn't cost this model or any other changes for that matter, if the airport decided to stick with the FBO model and then pay for the administrative services that are being provided pro bono to the airport, there will be an increased cost to the to the municipalities to do that, as well as, anything else in that, for that matter. So the idea would be that if in fact we evaluate the position evaluation comes back and we can perform the duties in a similar fashion or in a better fashion, the way that the budget's drawn up today, that would be the idea. I mean, that's I'm not sure what ifs are out there, other than the fact that our current arrangement provides probably greater what ifs, and, you know, than this other model would offer.
The fixed base operator has been the standard through
For
these
us.
many years.
For us, yeah, for us and to us.
Now, there's a fellow named Gross was the operator once.
Before him, yep.
And then Howard Joling now, and then before them, some other people.
I think Kurt Gross did for 10 years, and then before Kurt, Merlin, do you remember?
Don Kasich.
Don Kasich was before Kurt.
And they each stepped away for what reason? Any idea?
Well, they had an RFP, so the commission selected who the operator
Okay.
was at that point, yeah.
Has someone come forward to ask to do fixed base operator again for a period of time?
Has someone?
Has-
The commission suspended the RFP process to look at this model. And then at that point, the commission decided at its last meeting to pursue this model
Okay.
and then get a contract, conceivably from the city, to provide that service. So the question really in front of the commission, or in front of this group tonight,
Mhm.
is really, do we, in theory, support it? Do we feel that there are major hurdles or concerns that we want to get addressed tonight? And then, again, come back with the finer details to be able to make an informed decision.
Now, the city and the commission would enter into an agreement for the attendant plan,
Right.
administrative plan, excuse me,
Correct.
administrative
Yeah.
plan.
Just like we contract with an FBO today, the commission contracts with an FBO, yeah.
Okay. We would, in turn, take on a hire and costs associated with same. Yet the contract with the commission would be, again, a time period.
Mhm.
The commission could say, we would like to do a contract for 3, 5, 10 years.
Mhm, mhm. And then we would bill the commission a proportion, I mean, the share essentially of what that cost would be.
And then the employee, if the commission for some reason decide they'd like to go back to the fixed base operator, they would have that option as a commission, is that correct?
The commission could decide not to renew or to cancel that agreement, sure, at any point, you know,
Mhm.
based on the terms of the contract. That employee, then at that point, the relationship, I'm not sure exactly how we would
What
draw up.
happens?
I mean, that's
Whatever
the risk.
If the
but-
contract is for 3 years between the city and the commission, then it would be for 3 years. I mean, because we're not gonna hire, you know, I guess you wanna hire someone in that position, and I think the city probably wants some guarantee that we're not going through all this and it's gonna be a 6-month thing or a 1-year
Right.
thing. So, you know, whatever that is, I don't know if that's 1 year, 5 years.
Right.
But the commission more than likely wouldn't just be able to say, well, we don't like this, let's just do something else. I mean, I would think the contract would have some guarantees for both parties.
Sure, and then what happens to the employee, the person hired?
If at the end of the contract,
Mhm.
well, if the contract is not renewed, then I'm assuming unless we have use for the employee somewhere else.
Mhm. How is employment done with those airports who have the administrator program?
Depends on who the owners are, and that's kind of the difference here is in Eagle River, they've got the city and the county, I believe, are the two contributors. The city administers the airport and receives a contribution for administration from the county. So
Do they have a unique individual to do the administration, or?
They've got they've got a job description, just like any other position, they'd be, you know, certain qualifications are required, so, some aeronautical experience, you know, anything like, you know, experience in aviation, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks out there from just speaking with all these other airports and, you know, people, you know, there's training associated with airport administration.
Sure.
So there are folks that conceivably are trained to do this specific task. The difference here is this person, this administrator, would be their full-time administration, but they'd also be riding the mower, they'd also be representing the airport commission if the airport commission asks that person to, but they would also manage the attendant. There'd likely be an attendant on site that would, you know, 40 hours a week is only a portion of that schedule that we'd like to probably offer hours, you know, staffing hours out there. So that person is, you know, the administrator, and the administrative term really is just meant to be the manager, you know, the person that's running the show.
Mhm.
It's not a lofty white collar position, it's just somebody that's on site, that's not also, it's also not running, I mean, they could run their own business on the side, but they're not allowed the flexibility that a contractor is afforded today, where they could run their, frankly, you know, where we're giving someone an office and a check and all the fuel profit to go with it. And if the if fuel sales are great and they can charge a good markup on fuel, they charge a good markup on fuel and they sell it at that. I mean, it's really a lucrative opportunity in that space, but the commission really divests all authority and control of the airport in that contractor then. And there's very limited latitude that the commission has in terms of getting a handle on the things out there. So, you know, I think that's kind of the inherent benefit in changing the model, would be saying, hey, we need to get a handle on this. One, the city and other municipalities needs to protect their investment. They need to make sure that maintenance cycles are being done on all the you know, runways and ramps and taxiways that are yet to be constructed, all these things, and then to make sure that we're replacing things, you know, in an appropriate timeline too.
It seems to me that there's a lot of logic that went into this, and it makes sense to me, because I think we would have more control over the airport than we had in the past if we have a contractor doing it. So, and we would only buy into it for 3 years in a sense, because we can always change if we want to after the 3 years are up. But it's not like we're locked in for an extended period of time. And in the Rome factor, you wonder, and I was wondering, the percentage of communities that participate, is it based on population?
Equalized value.
Okay, so.
And Rome would be the second highest to the city in equalized value. In fact, they're equalized. Grand Rapids is, they'd be greater than Grand Rapids. I mean, they're in this current budget. I looked at the numbers. I think there's 600 million. Yeah, I just looked at the number today, and I don't have it in my head. Yeah, well,
Because
right.
that would really be advantageous for us too then. So
It's for, in terms of solvency, right?
I think it's an interesting concept. If you're gonna change, maybe now's the time to change.
Yeah.
You
Try it
see, Scott just said 3 years, is that what the?
I just.
That's not-
We'd have to define the terms of
Okay.
engagement in the
That's-
contract, yeah.
That's still not, okay.
Yeah, we had no determination on that today, but yeah, if it's 3 years or any number around that, yeah. And that would be something that the commission would ultimately decide or react to, yeah.
So has the airport commission, I know by default, you have been handling a lot of the administrative part, but now having a city employee as an administrator, and has the airport commission officially designated Wisconsin Rapids to administer that type of authority?
So the motion was to pursue a contract.
Okay.
Yeah, pursue a contract, not, we want to award the contract to the city without, you know, sight unseen type of thing, but yeah,
Okay,
very much
okay.
just to pursue it.
Okay.
You know, and not to put words in any other commissioner's mouth, but I would say we very much wanted the city to have a conversation about what this would mean and how this would work, and then come back to the commission. You know, if there's a tentative contract that's ready at that point, just to look at something, you know, or get parameters from this group, you know, that would be how the process would work, yeah. It's very much, if we're gonna pursue this administrative attendant model, the commission is beyond its means probably to hire someone directly, offer them benefit, you know, all of that infrastructure. And I don't know, I mean, the city, you know, I think as much as the city would like to maybe get out of all of this entirely, you know, it's not in, you know, our best interest to do so. And to divest all of that on someone else, like an administrator with its own bookkeeping, you know, financial staff and that. So,
Yeah. Has our new public works director started?
September 4th?
14th.
September 14th. Is this an opportunity for him to take on? Has Terry, what's?
Joe Terry.
Joe Terry. Has he previously been involved as a member of the Port Edwards
Uh,
community with the commission?
Sure. Ironically, he was Port's rep for 2 of these meetings. So he was very much in the conversation. In fact, he was kind of the pragmatic one and said, well, let's have some sort of public hearing on this. So we held a meeting in this room for pilots and users to attend, and suggested, you know, we get people's concerns, or, you know, let's throw it all on the table. What are the issues? What are the fears? A lot of it was fears. Joe, conversing with him actually a week ago Friday, was, and I'm not gonna speak for him, but very much inclined to support this model. I mean, partially because he's an engineer and believes in the infrastructure, and you've gotta maintain it and all of that, take care of it, and sees that today that function is not being performed. And to put it on a contractor who is running their private enterprise out of there, that just doesn't work, that doesn't make sense. So, he's also very much understood in the fact that we would put that 6-year plan and some of those long-range capital improvements like we are going to expect him to do of our other infrastructure here within the city, that falls right in alignment with maintaining the airport's infrastructure as well.
He's not a pilot by chance, is he? No?
Yeah, he would, in this kind of thought process, he would have oversight. In a similar way, I think, to how the wastewater commission provides sort of an authority or a role over the wastewater operations here. The wastewater superintendent reports directly to the mayor, but yet reports, to the commission and has that relationship. Not to muddy the waters, but it's a similar relationship to how the airport commission would work with the administrator of the airport, or the airport administrator, or airport superintendent, whatever that person would have, and then, have some oversight by the public works director, because the city's gonna have to manage this person, right? And the idea would be that the public works director would manage that person, just like wastewater superintendent, street superintendent.
Make the public works director that contact as the administrator and hire, put the duties on him and not hire someone separate. And then, you need someone.
The administrative, we could.
You need an attendant, well,
Right.
okay.
And a lawnmower and a snowplow. I mean, all of those day-to-day functions, we still want to staff it out there. So, and just kind of an early evaluation, you maybe want to talk about that, just because I think it's helpful to maybe think about the financial aspect of what a job like this
So
would
the
pay.
draft job description that
Yeah.
we put together, looking at a range of $48,216 to $54,554.
So it'd be very much in alignment, if I scroll down the screen up there, to what we're in effect paying our FBO contractor today. I mean, obviously, there's the fringe benefits that come associated with that hire, but we're not talking a league out of its own, in its own, where this person is an administrator, but they're expected to be knowledgeable in aviation, but I do agree with you in the sense that if in fact this person had the time to be the kind of day-to-day administrator out there, I still think we very much need that, and that's what's been absent even just in my oversight. I mean, I'll admit that I'm not there every day, nor should I be there every day, but I provide the baseline administrative expectations to make sure that thing functions, and that's bare minimum.
Well, I live out there by the airport, and I'm kind of used to the comings and going, and, it's from way back when we had Mid-State flying there, it's a quiet airport.
Yeah, from when it was, yeah.
And so I question having unique staff for it,
Sure.
okay? That's my concern. I appreciate what you want to do. I have to leave it at that.
Sure, and maybe add another piece to that. The current contract with the FBO sets forth 7-day on-site management. So the FBO presently is either hired someone beneath, as part of their contract,
Sure.
to staff it. And the commission, I think, wants to maintain that to the extent that it makes sense. I don't think there's an airport in our classification that's purely self-service and operates sort of doing their own fueling and all of that. That's not commonplace. But I agree with you, if the operations were not there, that you could, kind of like Dallas Baraboo and, or any of the other, or Adams County, for example, that doesn't have the operations even that we have, and we don't have a ton, that they.
What's our average daily operation?
Daily, I have a monthly that I was gonna reference. Let me just find it here. Last month, we had 221 airplane operations, 580 total operations, and 330 personnel through there. We pumped, or the FBO pumped 2,800 gallons of jet, or 100 low lead, and just shy of 1,000 gallons of jet fuel.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's no sleepy operation. I mean, it's not daily, constant operation. But
Would operations though include practice, the pilot who's learning for a license?
Mhm.
Is that included in operation?
Yep, yep.
Okay, if you separated out business operations from local operations,
I don't have business versus local, but I do have jet, turbine, and twin engine and single engine. So jet engines, we had, jet aircraft, we had 19 year-to-date. Single engine, 665 operations year-to-date. Twin engine, 105 year-to-date. There's a turbine, 33, 18 helicopter operations, and 35 experimental operations. We do have one charter operator out of there. Wings is their charter, is the local, is the guy that operates a charter business, so he's got a twin and another single engine, I believe, maybe 3 aircraft. So in as much as, there's that local 52, actually, that's the number I didn't throw up, but 52 aircraft that are based there.
Okay.
It's much more than that we serve to provide.
are we a point for EAA?
We do have a local EAA chapter.
No, I mean, though, do we have people coming in for EAA?
Yeah, and not as, and Howard says not as much
Okay.
as Point and some of the others do.
Okay.
Even the Hamburger Night brought 5 airplanes, 48 people, and the Black Hawk.
Okay.
So the nuts and bolts of it is that changing to this model will give the commission and the city a little more control and handle on the operations, and also generate some more income that we're not receiving currently.
I think it's fair. It's a fair
And then
characterization.
also the long-term maintenance would also be a better control of that.
Yeah, given the attention it needs, I think is the way I would say it, but yeah.
Okay. Any other further comment? Questions?
As far as process, the commission will meet early next week, I think Monday or Tuesday. I don't know if we've nailed down a date or a time on that. I guess, would it be safe to say that obviously that the committee has discussed this, and, if there's any individual concerns, it'd be nice to know them as we go forward, but I guess not hearing concerns.
All right.
Well, there might be during the week.
Sure.
After we leave here, we might
But as of
have more
today,
questions.
what
That's why when you
concerns-
said, you shouldn't have to contact a commissioner,
Yeah.
because
You-
you're presenting what the
Right.
commission requested you to do.
And
But
your
that's
city
my right
rep
if I
is-
wanna
is
call
me.
somebody
Yeah,
and ask
sure.
him on an individual
Sure.
basis.
Yeah, you're entitled to that opportunity.
So
Yeah.
questions might arise, so,
Mhm.
as far as moving forward, I would like to get a little bit more
It's still
information,
gotta-
and think of
it's
some
still gotta
questions.
come back, right?
Right, of course. I want to know what's the message that I take back as the city's rep to the airport commission. I mean,
And I think you're hearing some are saying going forward and some aren't.
sure, okay.
But the commission is coming, is the commission asking the city, or is it asking?
Yes, it's asking the city to perform, or to create a contract and enter and perform those services
Is
Is
that
it
are
just-
currently
is it ju-
being.
So the commission
You're
is
gonna bring it
just
up.
asking the city, or is it asking anybody else?
We've decided to pursue a contract with the city first, and there hasn't been any other determination, no. They all be afforded the courtesy, though. I think it's safe to say everyone should be afforded the courtesy if they want to take this thing on. More power to them.
Sure. I guess just a question to Tim, from a dollar and cents point, adding an administrator, any comments, concerns, questions, or thoughts that you would have?
I ran some rough numbers today, and I think as it stands now, just kind of, the big wild card is the fuel sales, and kind of trying to get our arms around, what might happen to future revenue sources from the fuel sales. Right now, for the first 6 months of 2015, we're way ahead where we've been historically. And I don't know if that has to do with the town of Rome, with the golf course or what, But if you use that, project that out, with the additional T-hanger rental, obviously there's gonna be, the management the cost will increase with the airport administrator and the site attendants and
Right.
stuff.
Okay.
But when you add that, contract that with, what the FBO is, plus the city, at some point, if we continue with the FBO model, the city's gonna start charging the airport for all the administrative time that staff puts in. There's a lot of, throughout all levels of this organization, get involved in the airport of some fashion. So based on that, and just kind of projecting out the current trend in fuel sales and the future costs of the new model, it'd be about an increase of about $9,000 over the current budget. But then if you bring in someone like the town of Rome and stuff like that, obviously that would be easily absorbed, plus, probably additional monies for capital improvements once we kind of get our arms around what we need out there from a capital standpoint. I think that's one of the biggest things. Right now, we kind of just address them as they come up, but we need a little bit more visibility in what our capital, requirements might be to maintain the airport long term.
And if the city's asked to formally do those things and to spend time on it, it should be recognized as such. And as you say, having to pay for that service and expertise.
Tom, do you have any comments or questions?
I just think what it's, and I know the contract's expiring, it's been extended for a couple more weeks yet to go. I just think it's going a little too fast myself. For council members and others maybe to absorb it all, and I do agree with Chad of contacting others to see what they think about it, So to give a blanket approval, approval, I mean, that ain't the right word, but the go-ahead with it, I don't know, I'm a little hesitant on that.
I'm not hesitant. No, it's still gonna come back to.
It's still gotta come back to us.
And, they need some latitude to explore.
But I think what we're looking for here is they gotta do a final thing and this and that, and so we don't wanna waste a bunch of time.
Right.
And since they still have to come back, there is opportunity, I agree with Chad and Tom, that people who want to contact the other commissioner, they
Yeah,
can.
Bill or whoever, or another commissioner when they're out of here, yeah.
And surface those issues. But you almost have to, sometime you gotta get off dead center and get moving on it, if not final agreement yet. That's my feeling.
I've never been dead center, I can tell you that much.
Well, the reality is the commission has had 5 months with upwards of 7, 8 meetings getting to this point. So we're not saying we have to do this tomorrow.
Which,
I'm
by
not
the way,
saying
we
that.
all can go to.
Yeah, Tom has attended.
We all can attend.
I've been to a couple, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't record them, but, more than welcome to sit. We have more people that attend our airport meetings in one meeting than attend all our city council meetings the
I
entire
can
year.
believe that.
So they're very well attended.
By the
If
calls I
there's-
get, I can believe that.
If there's folks that do want to weigh in, they do. I do run more of a public hearing at airport meetings than I should. They're not public hearings, but they're public meetings, and they unfortunately sometimes become public hearings. So, in terms of public input, there has been every ample opportunity to provide it, and I'm not closing the door today. I'm just reminding folks there's been many, many, many invitations. We've moved our meetings around. We've had them at City Hall. We've had them at the airport. Had them at different days and times of day and all that. So, yeah, and I'm not saying this has to happen before September 1st. It's not going to. The reality is it's not going to happen. If we were, I'd be asking for a decision tonight. So.
Well, and, I'm thinking, I'm kind of leaning towards it's gotta come back to us. And I will point of order with Tom again, and I don't want to get on my soapbox, but it's always been a pet peeve, and it's still a pet peeve of mine. If we get this stuff a little earlier, and being able to read it before we, some of us have full-time jobs, and some other of us are very busy, it's nice, it is pretty fast. I agreed to the meeting, we agreed to the meeting, but
Right.
If you're just looking for a go-ahead,
No, go ahead, just discussion.
just discussion, I'm
No, I
okay
mean,
with
we've
it.
accomplished the task with the
I'm
expectation.
okay with
I
it
have
as
for
long as it's
tonight.
coming back here.
Yeah, of course. It has
Because
to.
you guys don't want to waste your time doing a final formal proposal either, I mean.
I would concur with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think we can let it come back.
Yeah.
It's an opportune time to do it. I mean, the contract doesn't have to be for 20 years, it can be for 3 years, and
Mhm.
whatever you guys come up with.
Yeah.
All righty.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. See you in the room.
Motion to go to the next one?